Okay. All righty. Hi, everyone. Nice to see you. We'll introduce you, Bobby, as soon as I call the meeting to order. So I'd like to call the Moab City Council meeting to order on March 26th at 6:00 p.m. Just to note that Caitlin Myers is not going to be with us tonight. She's on a much deserved vacation. And Colin, you look like you had a trim. Look, you look very nice. Thank you. You're welcome. So we're going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance. And Bobby, I'm going to ask you to lead us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And before we get to introducing Bobby, I just want to, for all the people out there that aren't watching, that are here visiting, great to see all the visitors in town. We went from a quiet little town to a really busy little town pretty quickly, but I want to welcome all the Jeep Safari folks. It's 57 years of Jeep Safari. Busy town, a lot of Jeeps. So welcome to those who are not watching tonight. We're glad you're here. And also, secondly, I'd like to thank all the people that expressed their well wishes to me on the loss of my dad, who died this week. Or a week ago today, actually. Very much appreciated. As you all know, when you lose somebody that close, it's hard to say goodbye when you know it's forever. So thank you for all your well wishes. I really appreciate that. And then Carly, you want to introduce Barbie? Barbie? Sorry, Bobby?
Hi, I want to do like, hi, Barbie. Yes, I would be so happy to introduce Bobby. Bobby Tech, you can come up to the desk if you want to say hello. So Bobby is joining us as our new assistant city manager. He comes from the city of Denver, where he's been doing some financial planning for them. Do you want to just give a background, Bobby?
Absolutely. Great to meet you all. I'm excited to be here. Come from way in Denver. I used to manage the capital investment budget for the Parks Department there. Have significant experience in capital planning and long-term financial management, as well as municipal administration. So really excited to join the team here. You guys have great staff. So just thrilled to be here.
Great.
Welcome. Thanks, Bob.
Thanks so much, Bobby. And we'll have him, get to know you over the next couple of weeks, just in individual meetings. I think he's spoken with a few of you this week already. So it's great. Welcome aboard, Bobby. Thanks for being here.
All right, so we'll move on to our first agenda item, which is public comments, limited to 3 minutes. Anybody from the audience that wants to speak? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to close the public hearing public comment section. And then we'll move on to department update. And this is a project that I've been working on for a long time as part of the UMTRA project. And Michael and the staff, Carly and Richard, have been involved in this latest grant opportunity program from the Department of Energy. And we thought it was, you guys have heard me talk about the UMTRA site, the project, and how we're getting really close to closure. And so staff has kind of gotten involved with this grant opportunity, and Michael is going to present to you what that's all about. And Jason and I might chime in because some of this pertains to our meetings in Washington a couple weeks ago. But Michael, take it away.
Thank you. So as the mayor explained, this has to do with the UMTRA site. And as soon as my computer starts. Okay. So what we're looking at is the Department of Energy Community Capacity Building Grant Program. And the intent tonight is just to bring you up to speed on the work that we've done so far and the intent that we have going forward to submit a grant for this program. This program was created by the Consolidated Appropriations Act of 2023. It's brand new. This is its first year, and it is to help with reinvestment in disadvantaged communities that have been affected by long-term nuclear defense research and mining and all kinds of things related to that. So the UMTRA site does qualify, and we do qualify as a disadvantaged community as well. So we are qualified to move forward with this. We are starting with a base of the community vision that was adopted for the site, produced by the Moab Tellings Pilot Steering Committee, which was done over several years with lots of input. And as I understand, talking to the mayor today, it was updated at least 3 times and adopted by the council 3 times, the last time in 2023. This is a concept plan. You can find that plan at the website there, which is grandcountyconnects.com. And but you can see what concepts have been put out there. It has a lot to do with a very active park-related property with lots of trails and recreational activities and amenities and pavilions and those types of things, and even boat ramps and those things. So being a concept, it hasn't been developed beyond that point. So our plan would be to go from a concept like it is today to a shovel-ready project. And we're hoping that the federal government will pay for it. So the total grant ask that we're going to have is $1.2 to $2 million. There's no local match. The ceiling is $2 million. The floor is $500,000. So that's the minimum you can ask for. So we're still talking as a group, and this is a city and county effort. There are several people from the county as well as the city working on this, as well as people from the steering committee who aren't necessarily working for either one of those groups. And we're going to get together and put together a plan for the ask, but it would be between 1.2 and $2 million. The majority of that would go towards the design process. The way we figured it, if it's 1.2, it's about $750,000, and it just goes up from there. It'd be proportional regardless, but well, it'd actually be a larger proportion if we got more money, because the public engagement probably wouldn't change. We're looking at a pretty good in public engagement strategy with about $120,000. And I think that would be the same regardless. The ability that we would have if we went up to 2 million would be that we would be able to be sure that we got final plans that are ready for bid, and even potentially bid documents to go out for bid. We'd start with the feasibility analysis and then go into civil site planning and the design, and then public engagement would be throughout the entire process. And at the end, we'd have a final plan, hopefully ready to go out to bid.
And just for clarification, when we talk about going out to bid, there's certain aspects of the project that are going to need funding. So this funding request is just to get to that concept phase. It's kind of like a site plan. And then by having that, then we know what what's going to cost and how much it's going to cost to do certain things. And then we can go out and look for funding for that, right?
Exactly. This getting shovel ready would be that we just have plans.
Right.
The cost of the development is going to be an order of magnitude much greater than the $2 million. So it'd be a lot of money. But getting shovel ready and being able to use this grant to do that puts us in the best position to apply for other projects as they come up and other funding sources as they come up. So again, this is a joint application with Grand County. They are working with us on this. We have completed a couple of processes so far. And even before I got on, the steering committee did the community visioning, as we talked about, which is the concept plan. They put together a concept paper with the help of some volunteers and some of the Grand County staff. Those 2 things have been completed. And where we are right now is we're waiting for an invitation to apply for the grant. We're hoping that is coming. If we get asked to apply, we'll do that right away. And then we're looking at a potential award timeline, summer or fall. They'd have to award it before the end of September, I believe is what we were talking about for the federal guidelines. If we do not get awarded, if we're not asked to apply, we have contemplated and built into the budget the option of hiring a part-time project manager and some consultants to start moving forward with feasibility so that we could be in a better position to apply next year, because the site is going to need to be taken from the concept to an actual master plan. We're going to need to get to that point somehow. So we're looking at that as potentially the city taking on that responsibility and getting that to the point where we have a much better plan in the next cycle so that we can get that 1.2 to $2 million so we can finish the master planning. If we do get asked to apply, we should be publishing an RFP and selecting consultants before the end of the year would be the plan. So that was just an update on what is going on with the UMTRA site and the grant. And if you have any questions, I'll try to answer them. Frankly, the mayor knows a lot more about this than I do. She's been involved in this for decades and I'm coming on to help out, so.
Well, just so you guys know too, there's a park in Grand Junction called Las Colonas. Similar to this site, only much smaller. And when they went through this process, it took them 20 years to get to the point where they were able to develop the land. We don't want to wait that long. And so that's why we're going for this funding. And if we don't get this funding, that we feel it's important to continue that momentum so that when the site is closed, that we're further along and that we're able to really start looking at starting to develop. The other thing that wasn't mentioned that's very key is ownership. And you all know that a couple of weeks ago, we had that special meeting where we voted on the resolution. We took that back to Washington, met with the delegation, we met with others to talk about how important it is that we end up, the city and the county end up with ownership. None of this can happen if we don't end up with ownership. And so I had to leave early at that meeting. I think, Jason, you were able to meet with some of the delegation to talk about this, and it sounds like we were getting a lot of positive.
We had a very positive experience out there. We, and a lot of it was kind of showing them that site plan that you had. We went out there, you know, so you guys know, with kind of two intentions. You know, one, well, the first intention was that there's a separate line item on the president's budget, which is cleanup for the UMTRA plant, and at 67 million.
Yep.
And so we went out there and we spoke with kind of a lot of delegates. It was 13 different senators and congressmen, you know, including all the Utah delegation, you know, asking them to please support the president in that line and keep that 67 million coming. And across the board, everybody we met with, you know, Republican, Democrat, everybody along this the Colorado River, you know, down through California, was very supportive of this, and it was like, oh yeah, we can get behind this. We understand, you know, how important it is to get this project cleaned up and what you know the consequences could be, you know, with water in our area. So that was awesome. You know, people you know, were very supportive of it. You know, we even got to the point where a lot of people were saying, you guys don't want less money, you know, because we have a lot of communities who want, when they get projects start getting done, they start asking for less money so that they can go longer, you know, and we're like, no, we want it so that we can get it done, you know, and when we get it done, we would like to, this is what our plan is for that finished, when we get that land, and when that land's cleaned up, we'd like to do this project for it. And again, everybody across the board was like, wow, that's awesome, you know, and getting our foot in the door now and getting the process going, I think is going to go a long way so we don't have that 20-year wait before we start doing things. And people were amazed by it. They thought it was a great project that kind of takes, you know, as we all know, the UMTRA site and what it looks like into something down the future where you make that bend and you got this beautiful part where there was this eyesore coming into our community. And most of the delegations knew the project. You know, it was amazing how much information they had and how much knowledge they had about it. And we're like, yeah, we know exactly what you're talking about, you know, and it would look good. It'd look good for our local community. It'd look good for our federal government, you know, to say that we've turned this into this, you know, in a very positive thing for our area. So, and I think that these meetings that we have out there are super important because a lot of times, you know, because of the work of Joette and Mary, with the county commissioner, County Commissioner McGann, and Mayor Langanese, we would walk into these people, they knew who we were. Like, oh, you guys are here. I know exactly what you're here for. Yeah, we love where it's at. We love where things are going, and we support this. So they appreciated us kind of staying on the forefront of this and making it happen. And so I think it's a very, I was blown away at trying to keep up with those two and and the connections that they had and just the passion and love they had for this community that everybody got and understood. So
Did you take my advice and not wear high heels?
I wore one.
Yes, it's for one day.
I learned my lesson.
No, and just also, just so you know, Representative Curtis is introducing legislation through Congress that would transfer the land to the city and the county. And so our resolution was very important to share with them. And also the Department of Energy has also expressed very much wanting to make sure that we end up with the land because we put so much work behind it. So I feel positive. It hasn't happened yet, but I think we need to keep reminding them how important it is and doing our part to make sure that happens. And if we get this grant, that will solidify it even further because the work that we plan to do is build the momentum to show what we've done and how important it is that we have ownership of it.
Yeah, we're ready to go. So as soon as we hear, we will get the application in, and Richard's here to show that we are prepared and ready to write grants. Get
Right.
this thing submitted.
Also on that too, that like you said, we did meet with the Nuclear Regulatory Commission and the National Park Service. you
Yeah,
know,
we can talk
and-
about that during our
Oh, they-
reports.
okay.
Yeah.
And they like this idea as well. So
Yep.
they were very pumped about it.
Yeah.
Great. Thanks, Michael.
Okay, next we have 4 items on our consent agenda. We have item 4.1, Dark Sky Week Proclamation, 4.2, consideration adoption of resolution 01/2024, resolution designating signatures for our new bank accounts. I'm stuck on that word for some reason. It's not coming out of my mouth. And then approval of the minutes from our regular meeting on the 27th and special meeting on the 8th of March. And then approval of the bills against the city of Moab in the amount of $684,735.75. And if you guys will allow me, I would like to read the dark sky proclamation because our dark skies are so important and we have a lot of visitors in town. And even though it's cloudy, it'll clear up at some point, and I hope they look up and see what a beautiful dark sky we have. So I am proclaiming April 2nd through the 8th, 2024 as International Dark Sky Week in the city of Moab. Whereas the shared heritage Starry Night Sky inspires feelings of wonder and awe while encouraging a growing interest in science, nature, especially among young people and visitors to Moab. And whereas light pollution has scientifically established economic and environmental consequences which result in significant impacts to the ecology and health of all communities. And whereas an astrotourism brings economic benefit to Moab and surrounding communities, whereas Moab City has established an outdoor lighting ordinance to assure lighting can be both safe and compatible with dark skies, whereas Moab City, in partnership with the nonprofit Friends of Arches and Canyonlands Parks, provides financial resources to assist those unable to afford outdoor lighting replacement fixtures, whereas Utah currently has 25 certified international dark sky places, including neighboring communities, parks, and the highest concentration in the world. Wow, I didn't know that. That's pretty cool. Whereas Moab City has completed its International Dark Sky Community application, and whereas the International Dark Sky Association is the globally recognized authority on light pollution and has created International Dark Sky Week to raise awareness and provide free resources to the public to encourage the protection and enjoyment of dark skies and responsible outdoor lighting. Now, therefore, let it be resolved that I, Joette Langanese, Mayor of Moab, Utah, do hereby proclaim April 2nd through the 8th, 2024 is International Dark Sky Week, and ask each resident to join me not only in observing and pondering upon the important week, but also raising awareness and support for protecting our precious dark sky resources in Moab and the surrounding area. So go out and do some stargazing this week or next week. You don't have to do it this week. You can do it next week. Yeah, every day. And so with that, I'm going to ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda item 4.1 through 4.4.
I'll move to approve the consent agenda 4.1 through 4.4.
Motion by Tawny, second.
Second.
Second by Colin. Any discussion, Tawny?
No.
Colin? Anybody else? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0. All right, this is probably the biggest topic of our agenda tonight, and that is the presentation of fiscal year 24-25 administrative recommended budget. just for clarification, this is just the beginning of the process. I encourage you all to meet with David and Bobby to discuss the items. I know some of you already have. If you have more questions, feel free to do this. We will finalize the budget at the end of May. We'll have a public hearing, so we've got plenty of time to make changes or adjustments or whatever we want to do. I think next meeting, when we talk about the capital improvement projects, is going to be a real eye opener for you guys. So tonight, we're just kind of looking at city operations, and take it away, David.
Okay, thank you. Good to be with you here. I don't know, Carly, this is technically your budget. Anything you want to say about it?
Great caption. Can't buy happiness. It's
Thank
true.
you.
It took me a minute, actually.
You can budget for it though.
Yeah, you can budget for happiness.
Is that a word? What is that?
It's a capybara,
Yeah,
obviously.
my spirit animal.
Sorry, David.
Okay. It's not for everybody. All right, so you all have received the packet, and in the packet is it contained a couple of documents. One was the line by line item of the budget as proposed compared to the budget from the current fiscal year that we're in. I also got a request for the historical historical actuals for those various line items, and those you received as a PDF, and there's some out in the hallway if anybody's interested as well. You'll see that as part of the packet when we do the tentative budget next time around as well. And then also in there were some budget highlights, and so I'm going to go through some of those here and flesh out a couple of other elements in the budget as proposed. But at the top line summary, as it stands, really you're looking at an overall general fund budget increase being proposed at 3.8%. So that's both for expenses and revenues. We make things balance in each of the funds. We are predicting or estimating that sales tax revenue won't go up compared to the year we're in. That's, I think, maybe a touch conservative, but we don't know. And my guess is we're not going to see a giant spike in revenues or a big, reduction in sales tax revenues for this current fiscal year, regardless. This budget does anticipate using some property tax revenue that you all will be considering for equipment and maintenance costs in addition to future capital costs. And I've got it set up in a way where if indeed there was not a property tax increase, it would affect, like I said, only really equipment and maintenance costs in terms of an impact to the budget. The general fund and the recreation fund expense increases, most of those you'll see are related to maintaining personnel in the status quo and managing and maintaining assets moving forward. And then the enterprise and utility funds don't get a lot of discussion here because they are really solid right now, and we're not proposing a lot of changes there at all. So no major staff changes, no major sort of realignments or anything like that. So real, I think it's fair to say that ship is in a really relatively solid and steady place.
David, question.
Mayor.
So those funds come from bills, right? I mean, that's not sales tax revenue.
That's correct. So what we call general government funds are things like the general fund, which pays for planning services and streets and things that are in the general fund, administrative costs. Another quote unquote general government fund is the recreation fund. That is also one that is supported by revenues that come essentially from, well, the recreation fund could be a mix. It receives both revenues from tax revenues that the city transfers in there, but also for fees charged for services. Whereas the enterprise funds, utility funds for water, sewer, stormwater, those are entirely funded by user fees, right? So you get a bill as a property owner or a homeowner or a resident, and you're paying your water, sewer, stormwater bill each month. And so projects and operations are both funded through that, in addition occasionally to grant funds that the city is able to acquire.
Thank you.
Sure. So this is just a sort of status of where we're at slide. Like I said, sales and use taxes are flat. It's important to note that. We do have a couple of key vacancies that you may be aware of. However, when I checked in with Danny in HR, she said this is as close as we will ever be to being fully staffed. The fact that our police department is now fully staffed, we have one officer who's in training or about to come on, but is hired, and that, you know, that's pretty amazing. Actually, I certainly never saw that in my time in any other jurisdiction, frankly. Planning and capital projects are ongoing, particularly the Cane Creek Boulevard reconstruction project, the downtown dispersed parking project, the Mill Creek final chip seal upon chip seals will be happening in this fiscal year. So those are big projects that are progressing. Planning is also in the process. Planning division is also in the process of getting the zoning code rewrite going. So that'll be a multi-fiscal year project. And facilities, as you know, and transportation infrastructure continues to actually deteriorate. I think it's important to point that out. You know, we do our best on an operations ongoing way, manner to try to keep up with things. And I think this budget does, tries to focus on that, as you'll see where some expenditures are being proposed. But at the end of the day, you know, we are still losing ground, particularly on streets and some of our recreational facilities. That said, the utility side of the world, infrastructure repairs and upgrades are also ongoing. We see those very visibly in a lot of places in the city. And we have had some, you all have, as a council and your predecessors have done some good work to ensure that we have rates in place to be able to pay for those upgrades ongoing. I mean, it's a constant and probably never ending adventure for OB and his crews and the contractors we have working with him. But that one, I feel like in the balance of things, we're a little more headed toward the right horizon as opposed to slipping off the planet, as it were. It's an interesting metaphor I just made up. So you can disregard that if it doesn't make sense to you. That's okay. So moving on, goals of this budget. Really tried to classify them as 5 different things. One is maintain the current level of service to residents and to visitors. Use our resources efficiently. We're always trying to do that. And a budget is a time to reevaluate how you do things. You know, an example is, do we use consultants versus bringing on new hires to handle certain responsibilities? It's always a balance you're trying to strike. What's most efficient use of funds? Again, try to decelerate the equipment facilities maintenance needs to the degree that's possible. And yeah, continue on with key studies and non-capital projects, which is to say, you know, there are all sorts of studies and initiatives that we're working on that are important, and we'll get into those. And then last, just more from an internal standpoint, we have a goal of trying to really align how we do budgeting and how we do accounting so that it lines up with our departments and our divisions. So that's just an internal organizational thing that you'll see reflected and look different from years past. We're using the same accounting software, but we're trying to really make it clear and easier to figure out if you're in there. So an example of that, for instance, is that the Parks and Recreation Department includes parks, but the Recreation Fund hasn't historically included parks. So we're aligning that so that parks is now part of the Parks and Recreation Fund, you know, things like that, that just can be confusing over time and kind of muddy the waters in terms of accounting and accountability, frankly. So, but that's something that's more of an internal issue than an external thing. And it's not necessarily about spending money differently. Okay, highlights. Given those goals, we're not proposing those. Did I mention this yet? The increase in sales and use taxes. We are trying to account for some of the equipment, the facility and equipment needs by allocating a property tax revenue to that. We do use one-time revenues to shore up the balance, and that's not atypical. It's certainly been a common practice. It's not always the best practice. In an ideal world, you're only using one-time revenues to buy things that you would buy one time as opposed to an ongoing expenditure. But reality is rarely there. And so that's just something to always note. And then, like I said, expense increases are related to maintaining personnel, particularly looking at COLA, salary survey adjustments, and potential for merit increases, which haven't happened in a couple of years. And of course, managing and maintaining assets. So those are the goals. Those are the highlights of this budget, trying to meet those goals. Just getting into some specifics here of a sort. The general fund does transfer funds to other funds. Two of the big highlights are that, the general fund supports the recreation fund, and the recreation fund is something that is you could certainly say this is true for a lot of city services, but in recreation, it's particularly clear that this is a regional service that is provided. Residents who are not residents of Moab are not only free, but welcome to use these facilities, but it is absolutely a region-wide amenity for residents in particular, but for non-residents as well. It's just always worth pointing out, and the budget does change because of what I mentioned with the Parks Division moving into the Recreation Fund. The only transfer of funds from the general fund into the capital fund at this point are listed as this one-time amount that is basically the arts and parks and recreation tax money that has built up over time is to be transferred actually into the or over to the capital fund, to be spent on a new playground at 20 City Park. That also receives some grant money to match that so that we can really get that done robustly. So excited about that project. In the Administrative Services Department, which includes the recorder, HR, the finance, the treasurer, and the electeds, the general division, the admin division. We've had just minor inflationary increases. That includes the IT budget as well, which some of this got moved out of the capital fund and back into the general fund because it's more of an equipment expense. And we just did a lot of moving around of salaries and consolidating things, like I said, to make it look and work more functionally. It does include contingent funds for site planning for UMTRA. It comes to that as a one-time expense. In the Community Development Department, there's funding there to start the downtown plan, finish up the zoning code rewrite. This department does include a proposal for a new position, the construction inspector, which is really become very clearly needed as we have ramped up on Cane Creek and on the downtown dispersed parking project. And if we're to move forward with other significant city-run capital projects, we definitely are going to need a little more capacity and bandwidth in the city to manage those projects effectively. On the police side, I'm happy to say we get to maintain the status quo. It actually reflects a slightly smaller operational budget in police, not because of any reduction in force at all, but because we had some large one-time expenses in the current fiscal year that we're in that we don't need to have moving forward in the next fiscal year. So that's why that reflects a slightly smaller budget. We did add this line for the on-call sergeants and detectives, and I believe that the chief left a note for you all about the reason that we still have this level of on-call and overtime needs is because there is still demand for that, even though we are more staffed up. And historically, those funds that were used for overtime weren't necessarily in an overtime budget line. They were in the regular salaries budget line, but because we had so many vacancies, we could pull out of that and not have it be reflected separately. But so this is actually a more transparent way to talk about the budget. All right, in facilities division, some significant one-time expenses budgeted here, primarily around maintenance and upgrades for this building, including an elevator, the treasurer's quote-unquote window. We're hoping to make it an actual window instead of mostly a wall. That is a fairly high ticket item because we are trying to budget in a way that we don't get surprised, A, and B, it'll probably be shatterproof, really durable material. And so budgeting for that is in the facilities budget, along with the heat pumps that are being replaced over time. We've had a few that we've already replaced, and there's more to do. Particularly those on the second floor are very much appreciated when these work. I think that's fair to say. We've gotten some feedback on that historically. Let's see. Oh, and this does include a new position for grounds maintenance. And again, this reflects the fact that the city is taking on more and more maintenance needs for some of the new infrastructure that's going in. Cane Creek in particular comes to mind. I mean, it was a priority as it should have been to, ensure that we had a really aesthetically pleasing landscaping that met people's expectations. That does require maintenance though. And so to be realistic about it, adding additional maintenance requirements without adding staff is probably not the fairest thing. So hence this position to keep up with, and then certainly support staff and add that extra element of resiliency for grounds maintenance throughout the city. So then moving on, those are really that's certainly not everything in the general fund budget, but those seem to be the items that were at least worth highlighting in this discussion here. Moving on to the roads fund. This is a separate fund that receives revenues from two sources. One is the state reallocates funds back to local jurisdictions based on how many lane miles you have that you are in charge of as a city. So we get funds through a formula for that every year. And then there's also what's called a transportation tax. It's a gasoline tax that the city also receives now annually. And both of those are restricted in how you can use them. We've lumped them into one fund and say, all right, we're gonna spend them pretty much with the most restrictive parameters around them, which is still it's totally fine. Like that's not a real issue, but basically it's for road maintenance, sidewalks, curb and gutter, that kind of thing. And it does include streetlights for what it's worth, which is interesting. So that's great. At any rate, we anticipate steady revenues coming into that fund. It does include an allocation for high priority sidewalk repairs. I hope we can talk a little bit more about that. And also the road fund will be responsible for part of the Cane Creek Boulevard reconstruction project because of the road element to that project. So moving on, Parks and Recreation Fund on the operations side. This does include a new position that is the front desk manager. It's going from new in that it's going from a part-time to a full-time position. And that is just to really address the needs for there to be a consistent level of coverage at that position in the city, at that location. This budget does include funding for part of the overall need for replacement for exercise equipment, anticipating that it might be a 2-year plan to replace all of it. We'll be working on some replacement schedules for exercise equipment moving forward, but as you can imagine, that can get expensive over time too. But the biggie is that the pool and the MRAC building itself are requiring more and more upkeep. They're becoming more and more problematic in terms of expenses associated with just maintaining them. And part of our plan, part of this budget also includes some funds for evaluating what the plan needs to be for the MRAC moving forward, because it's probably time to get really serious about what we're going to do with that thing. There are issues with panels, there are issues with the pool, there are issues with the foundation. And so we need to get some professionals in here and give us a soup to nuts sense of the lay of the land for fun. Mm-hmm. And then, like I said, in the enterprise funds, we really are seeing, those are well managed. The expenses in the water fund overall are projected to go down. Again, so we don't have quite as many of those bigger one-time expenses. Sewer fund, budgeting for a bunch of repairs and equipment and facility repairs, as you'll see in the line items. And then the stormwater fund, the only one I'd really highlight for you there, and again, this is just on the operations side, not on the capital side, is that the stormwater plan, master plan itself is pretty outdated. It predates the rebuild of 191. It certainly predates all of our flooding events that we've had recently. And so it's probably time to have that thing reevaluated so we can start to prioritize projects for the stormwater fund more deliberatively. So next steps, as the mayor mentioned, use my favorite word, the I words, iterative process. It's an ongoing thing. There's your feedback, the public's feedback can come at any time. There's obviously a formal public hearing process that happens as required by state law. And we always go above and beyond that as a city. If somebody emails in after the public hearing with feedback, that is taken into consideration as well. So the next meeting is going to be a big one for us. It'll be a workshop for you all to discuss this budget itself. And then you'll adopt a tentative budget. And that budget, just to be clear, is one where a stake is put in the ground, and it only matters if for some reason you all are unable to come to agreement on a final budget. If you don't come to agreement on a final budget, or something happens, we can't, the tentative becomes the final automatically. So it's just a way the state put this requirement in. It's a way to make sure that something is there in case nothing gets agreed on. So we will, based on your input and from what we're hearing and what happens in the workshop on the 9th, the tentative budget may or may not materially change from what you see here. But again, it's really just a placeholder. And then you will also have this initial discussion around the 5-year capital improvement plan that's separate but related, obviously, to the budget. Because what will happen is the 5-year capital plan, once you actually adopt is the wrong word. It's not really it's a guiding document. It's not like a budget where, there's these legal requirements around it. A 5-year CIP is really a planning document. And what that does is then inform what you put into each of your successive, annual budgets. And so what the 5-year CIP will do is tell us what we should put in the 1-year CIP for fiscal 25. And then on May 14th, we're planning at this point to have this public hearing, and it will also include a public hearing for the proposed property tax rate. And this is a statutorily required public hearing as well. It may feel like it's a little early in the process, but again, it's a way to really get the word out and have people start to give feedback formally about a proposed property tax rate. And then on the May 28th, we're targeting that for adopting the budget. And that would include the fee schedule. We're going to do some probably minor tweaks around the fee schedule this year, nothing major. The pay plan schedule is required by state law, and the proposed property tax rate. So you're not actually adopting the property tax rate. That happens later in the year. That will be what happens in August after another public hearing goes out, and then there's an opportunity for people to be heard again and for you all to provide feedback, and we adopt that rate, or would adopt a rate if there was a rate to adopt in August. I believe that is it.
Great. And just as a reminder, our strategic plan that we just had, this budget revolves around those decisions that we made during strategic plan. So just keep that in mind as well. That's how they come up with the budget, is based on the things that you guys want to have accomplished.
It's like the force, it just flows through it.
Right. Of course. All right. Questions for David?
First of all, thank you. And thank you for taking my questions all week. I'm sorry.
Not at all, of course.
I'm sorry, but it did help me with a lot of this. And I think it really kind of laid the groundwork for me, especially when we meet on April 9th and do the workshop, to really kind of hammer out, what each of us want to see and what, where we're at with the budget and stuff. Because I think and also explaining things like sidewalks, and that we've had money budgeted for sidewalks, but we haven't had the bandwidth to deal with the sidewalks, so I think that those are some things that I would like to address, how we not only budget for it, but facilitate the action of taking care of it in the future. And then, I think that also too, that, us kind of going over the budget and definitely looking at cutting where we can and adding where we need to add to, to help in our community and stuff. So anyway, I appreciate everything you've done with this and appreciate all the time you've taken with this, and I'm looking forward to April 9th.
All right.
I'm getting my list ready, so
So
thank you.
you're the pro tem that day?
Uh, Hopefully we're starting at like 9 a.m. But thank you. Yeah, thank you.
Any other questions, Jason?
No, I don't have a lot of questions today. I will,
Ninth.
I will on
That's the-
April 9th.
Right, and that's the
you know,
time for us to really hash out all the.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah,
Other questions for David?
I would just echo that, David. Thank you for being so accessible to us in the last several days.
Sure.
And, yeah, I have my list too, and I look forward to April 9th.
Okay.
Thank you.
Great.
I really like this format. It's a lot easier for me to understand it than some other ones I've had to muddle through.
Mhm.
So I appreciate that you've simplified it for people who don't do money.
Right on. Thank you.
Anything? Okay. So did you say, is there a public hearing on the ninth?
Yes.
Yes.
There is not a public hearing on. the
Okay,
ninth.
Oh, it's
that's what I
workshop.
thought.
Yeah,
The
it's just a
public hearing-
workshop. We don't require a public hearing for to
Okay.
adopt a tentative,
Right,
but,
there will be for the final.
yes, absolutely.
But just so community members know, please feel free to reach out to us if you have questions that you would like us to address on the 9th. So I just want to put that out there. So even though there's not an official public hearing, we are open to hear from the public before that meeting.
Absolutely.
And so April 9th, we can go through this line item by line item, right?
Well, hopefully not line item.
Every other line.
I think that maybe in an ideal world, it would be that we, they, the royal we, collect a list of items that would be maybe considered unresolved. In other words, like,
Great.
yeah, this one item, I don't know that I like it, and I know, I want to question that. So we, not necessarily line by line, but like flag the
Yeah.
ones you want to talk about.
So we have the highlighted that we
Yeah.
want to address.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
And in the interim, David's still available to meet with any questions that you guys might have.
Absolutely.
He told me no.
Well,
No questions.
except for Jason.
I know, I was like, okay, I was a little sassy. Sorry about that.
Thank you, David.
Thank you.
Very good. This is gonna be, got 5 months, you guys, 5 months. But these next couple of months are gonna be really key.
Yes.
So. All right, next under general business, 6.1, presentation and acceptance of the fiscal year 2022-23 annual audit of the city of Moab. I'm going to request that we table this item. We just received the audit back today. Little late. We've been waiting for it for a long time. The audit committee will be meeting next week to review the audit and then, work with David on that. And then at the next meeting, if you guys agree to table this, you will accept that audit. You're not here to change it. This is, the audit is the audit. The audit committee will look at it and ask the questions that need to be asked of the auditors. You guys will just accept it. So can I have a motion to table the presentation and acceptance of the annual audit for 2022-23?
Joette, before I make a motion, could I please ask who is the audit committee?
The audit committee is Jen Williams, who is she works for EMS and she does all their bookkeeping,
Okay,
and Michael Black and Tawny. So, and that's state code. They kind of tell us who we need to have on that committee. And so those are the 3 folks that are going to be involved. And of course, David is involved.
I'll make a motion to table the presentation and acceptance of the fiscal year 2022-2023 annual audit of the city of Moab
To April 9th.
through April 9th,
Is that good, David?
2024.
April 9th? Yes. Thank you. Motion by Jason,
I'll second that. Jason.
seconded by Colin. Discussion? Jason?
No.
Colin? Anybody else? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0. All right. 6.2, general business, consideration of adoption of resolution 04-2024, resolution of the governing body of the city of Moab granting permission to the Moab Police Department to dispose of unclaimed property pursuant to Utah Code annotated 77-11D-1054. Scott's here if you guys have any questions, but essentially what this is unclaimed property. It's not surplus. That's another thing. This is property that they found, lost and found, you know, that kind of thing. And so they have taken that property, which is in the list of what that property is, and donated to nonprofits. So unless you guys have any questions, I will ask for a motion to adopt resolution 04-2024.
I will move to approve. Where is it here?
I'll second.
I'm just trying to, pursuant to Utah Code annotated 77-11D-1054. I move to give permission to the police department to apply the property to a public interest use and the designation and approval of the public interest use of the property. Couldn't that have been simple?
It's like a
Oh.
riddle.
It was.
All right, so we have a motion to approve resolution 04-2024 by Tawny,
I'll second it.
second by Jason. Discussion, Tawny,
No.
Jason,
No.
anybody else?
Looks like some nice stuff. Glad it's
Yeah.
going to a new home. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Bet.
All right. All those in favor?
I,
Motion passes 4-0. And our last item of general business, oh my goodness sakes. Is consideration of acceptance of annexation petition by TJ Moab Enterprises for property located at 1082 South Main Street. This was a pre-annexation agreement that was approved by you all in August of 2023. Michael is just going to give you a really brief refresher because I don't think Colin and Caitlin were here when we approved this pre-annexation. So I thought it would be good to just let you know what the conditions were on that, why we agreed to that pre-annexation process. This is just a piece. We're not doing an annexation. This is just a piece of that process that Michael explained to us at our last meeting.
Right. And you can refer to your packet too. Summer did a background or information that you can look at to see what the process actually is. But I'm just going to go through this pretty quickly just to give you some background on where it's located. This is the Shumway pre-annexation agreement. It was approved in August, I believe it was August 22nd, 2023, that night at City Council. The mayor just gave the address, but it's 1082 South Highway 91.
Oh,
The-
sorry.
191, sorry. And the current zoning is in the county and it's highway commercial. They're asking for a C4 general commercial zone in Moab, which the council did agree in the pre-annexation if they were to annex with the stipulations in the pre-annexation agreement that would likely be the zone. So the use at the site, we generally have a site plan, a little bit more developed than a concept plan usually, but with this one, it's a mixed-use cafe with retail and office commercial uses. So it's a mixed-use building with all of those uses, I guess I should say. And there is no residential use at the time. However, if there were any residential use to come forward in the future at this property, the property owner has agreed that it would be active employment household units in compliance with our new code. They are also agreeing to sustainability efforts to meet LEED requirements. Those are all within the pre-annexation agreement. So tonight this is basically just the next step in the annexation process. And what you're doing tonight is either accepting the petition for further consideration or denying the petition and stating the reason for denial. Again, this information is all in your packet if you want to get more detail. And Summer is here also, and she can speak to this as well, I'm sure. But if the council accepts the petition tonight, the certification process begins. The planning commission will review the annexation and make a recommendation, and then the city council will hold a public hearing. If you accept the annexation petition tonight, you are not annexing the property tonight, just to be very clear. So we're recommending that you accept the annexation petition and move the process forward.
Summer, do you have anything?
No, if you have questions, let me know.
Any questions for Summer or Michael? Otherwise, I'll ask for a motion to accept the annexation petition by TJ Moab Enterprises.
There are no questions. I can make a motion.
Okay,
I move to accept the annexation petition from sponsored Tai Shumway for TJ Moab Enterprises for approximately 0.52 acres located at 1082 South Main Street, and to proceed with the certification process.
motion by Colin, second. Second by Luke. Discussion, Colin?
None. Seems like a
Luke.
great project.
Anybody else? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0.
Wow.
Oh,
I don't know what we're doing right or wrong, but like we're doing
I don't
something
know.
different.
but if things change after you leave, you're coming back. All right, so we're gonna move on to city manager updates and then mayor council reports, and then we have the closed session to talk about pending litigation, just to kind of get you guys updated on where we are with all our litigation issues. So take it away, Carly.
All right.
All
All of it, the basket of litigation I'm leaving you all with.
Be along.
On a pot of coffee.
We're gonna be here just now.
Okay, everyone. So with the spring season finally starting, this is a really busy time of year for our recreation and arts department. So I wanted to let you all know about some upcoming registration and events that are coming up in case constituents have questions about how to participate. First of all, this Saturday, March 30th at Swanee City Park, we'll be having the Easter egg hunt. It begins at 10 a.m. at Swanee, followed by pictures of the bunny. This event is free to the public. Children ages 1 to 8 are invited, and please participate. I do like to see Pat Trim in the bunny suit. That's why I was laughing, because he well wears it well. He really embodies the character. The Moab Art Walk has started for this season. The first round took place on March 1st. Subsequent events will take place May 3rd, August 2nd, and November 1st. Just show up at the mark on those dates at about 5 p.m. and they'll have a series of galleries to go to that are participating for the Moab Art Walk. Really lovely event put on by Moab Arts. Arts and Ag Markets is also kicking off on June 7th from 5 to 8. And then it will be taking place, I think, every other month. In the summer, the vendor registration for the Arts and Ag Market is open now, and it can be accessed at the Moab Arts website. So if vendors want to participate, they should go to that link and register with Moab Arts. Finally, the Arts and Rec Summer Camp is also kicking into gear. It will be taking place June 3rd to June 28th. We have capacity for 20 children, ages 5 to 10 each week. I believe it's $120 per week per child. Registration for the camp will begin April 15th at 10 a.m. So that's just some of the arts and rec programming that's available in the coming months. Just a quick update on construction projects. Cane Creek and downtown dispersed parking are moving along nicely. We had to sign a change order for downtown dispersed parking because of a sewer main that needed to be replaced on 100 North, but the sewer fund is able to absorb that cost. It was sort of even anticipated as we were moving forward with the construction that this would be a change order, and it turned out to come to fruition. So 100 North, kind of by the food truck park, gets a new sewer main. So great thing to have. Another project that should be wrapping up in the next couple of months that is on track is the Tusher Locust sewer line replacement. I know that's been really disruptive to the neighborhood. Like Tusher, Hillside, Walker, they have just been pummeled with water outages and construction over the past couple years. So I really want to thank that neighborhood for their understanding and for being so accommodating, but hopefully we'll just get some really nice infrastructure for them and they will get to wait another 50 years before they're on the firing line again. But that should be wrapped up. And we'll be trying to pave that road, make it look really nice for them. Finally, the code rewrite is kicking into gear as well. The consultants for the Title 17 rewrite visited last week. I think they met with some members of the council, and I believe you two, no, you were out, but they will be conducting some further engagement as they undergo the rewrite. I met with them for about an hour. It was a really good discussion. I know Michael, Corey have spent a lot of time. Great consultant team. They seem really knowledgeable. They had a lot of really good ideas about how to tackle some of our code issues and even just local issues that we're having as a community. So I appreciate their perspective. And then finally, I would like to raise, I don't know if I'm going to get through this. Sorry, guys. Just a point of personal privilege. At the end to address some news that has been announced and reported on. But as you all know in this room, I've accepted a new position with Salt Lake City. I don't know how some people have done this, and I wrote it down just so I wouldn't get too lost, but this is my last meeting as your city manager. Doug, I swear if you take my picture and I look like this, I will fight and kill you. Thanks. I thought a lot about what I wanted to say. I have a lot of conflicting emotions. And I alluded to this in my staff email, but the biggest thing I'm feeling right now is just gratitude. Thank you for letting me be your city manager. It's been an honor and a privilege. I love this job. Thank you for trusting me with this important work. I have no professional reason to leave. I have every professional reason to stay because it's an excellent position and I feel all of your trust and support and it means so much. I'm leaving for personal reasons and to invest in the personal side of my life, and that's calling me to Salt Lake. So thank you everyone, staff, council, mayor. It's meant the world to me serving this position. I'll miss you all and I wish you everyone the best moving forward. So thanks.
None of us can follow that up.
Yeah, well, I can't.
That is not how I wanted that to go. I rehearsed it and it was so composed and professional, but
Well, we knew that you were gonna quit because you don't really want to leave and none of us really want you to leave. But I will say that at our last meeting, I never anticipated that it was going to be our next to last meeting together. We've had a great relationship and almost like my little mini me over here. We think alike. We're always on the same page without even saying it. It seemed like we've had a couple of disagreements, but that's okay. I mean, that's what it's about. So we're very fortunate to have had you. You know, it's been a great couple of years. We wish you'd stay. I know there's nothing we can do to change your mind because otherwise you would have told me sooner because I would have changed your mind if I had the opportunity. But I think you've done a great job for the city and you're going to be missed. And when you're here, we can be friends now. Yep. Right? Mm-hmm. We are going to have a little celebration, right, Danny? Is that still on? A little dinner, a lunch? Coordinate all that. I think we're talking about the 4th of April to have a luncheon here. We invite the community to come that wants to say goodbye. We want all you to come. I think I would like to see if, and I'll talk to you guys all separately about this, but Carly and I would like to go out for cocktails with you all, with the city council. So sometime before, or, probably sometime next week, maybe even the evening of the 4th. Yeah, whatever works for you guys. So we can have a nice fun goodbye without tears, and, you've been great to work with. It's gonna be hard to replace you, but we're lucky we have David as interim. And I just, I don't want to take away from her eloquent talk, but just so you know the process, I want to make that clear. We will start advertising as soon as possible. We'll go ahead and use our recruiter and other avenues. Our intent is to start having applicants and reviewing those applicants in May. And we probably will, if everything works out and we have enough options, hire somebody in the fall after the property tax discussion. We just don't want to bring somebody in the middle of that. So that's kind of the timeline. And David is, we're working on David's contract now. And at our next meeting, we'll be asking you guys to consider starting the negotiations with David on his contract. So Carly, thank you so much. I'm still mad at you.
I know.
We all,
I mean, that's the only way that I can get through this is to be mad
You
and
felt
not
the
sad.
anger.
Yeah.
She-
because-
Joette was so funny last week. She's like, when do I get to yell at you? And I was like, I thought you did.
But it's easier to be mad than sad. And when I say mad, I'm not really mad. It's just I have to make her feel bad.
Understand.
Anyway, thank you, Carly. And
thanks, Carly.
I don't know if any of you guys want to make a comment, and then we can move on to our reports.
Too angry.
Yeah.
I would, because I was here when Carly took over, and Carly took us from utter. Stop it. You took us from utter chaos to calm,
Yeah.
and you really did calm the waters. And I'm gonna pull my old lady card. For someone so young, you have shown such grace and eloquence and patience. And I appreciate everything you've done. Thanks, Tony.
Yeah, sorry. I was fortunate enough to not have experienced the chaos that some of the council members before us had to go through and that a lot of the city staff had to go through. But that's the situation that I was bracing myself for coming into this. And I was almost caught off guard at like how quickly you had righted the ship and made my transition into this like overly complex, like multifaceted position so much simpler than I thought it would have been. It hasn't been easy by any means. But just the leadership that you've exemplified is something that I will hold on to for a really long time. It's one of those things where nothing's ever guaranteed. And so I'm thankful for the time that the city and that we had you as a council. You have made this experience a lot better and slightly gentler than I could have anticipated. You gave me space to sometimes just vent and be a human so that I can more professionally represent the city once I got my emotions out and everything. Just in a lot of ways. I just keep thinking about like steadying the ship and keeping it steady. And I feel like you've really helped manifest an environment that I think we've been able to get together, just an unbelievable group of people in the city. And it's hard to say goodbye, but I'm also really excited for like the adventures that lie ahead. So thank you.
Thanks.
Ethan's known me the longest.
Yeah.
Of all the people.
I would say good luck. You are going to be awesome up in Salt Lake. You're awesome whatever you do. Those that don't know, I probably knew Carly when she was 18, 19 years old. And she at 18, 19 was and is a very driven person. She sticks to her guns. She's passionate about what she believes in. And when I started working with her here, she's carried those traits. She still has those traits, and she's still a fireball. And I know that you will be successful in whatever you do, because when you put your heart into something, you don't let anyone detract you from it. And you, like Luke and everybody said, you're the best person for the job here at the time of being here. And I am very, I admire how you can address people and how you can, you know what is right and you know what to do, and you stick by that. and you're not swayed. So I appreciate that. I wish you the best. Hopefully we'll see you at the hood, you know, and,
I'm not leaving the hood,
and
the
you'll-
Shire.
the Shire. And thank you. Thank you for everything.
All right, can hear see the headlines now. City council crying session.
Yeah.
Come up with something good, Doug.
He's like, I know what my headline is.
Well, of course you are.
Our attempt to distract you was
Did not
foiled.
work. It's like, okay, that was all not true. Carly's not leaving.
It should be
No.
noted that Doug called this. Yeah.
You did. You
Yeah.
came back with
Don't
your
encourage him.
prediction. You did.
He didn't nail it. He said he'd find another city to manage.
Okay, good point.
All right. Well, Carly, you'll be missed.
Absolutely.
At least, you know, we'll still have to set up some time for me to yell at you, which I
I
won't do. No, I won't. do.
We're gonna do it tonight. No.
Okay.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. These very kind words. Thanks so much.
So we'll start with, you know, I'm gonna start with Colin, because you and I might want to piggyback off on our reports,
Fair enough.
right? So
Okay.
Colin.
Thank you. So going way back, since we didn't have a meeting, we did have a special meeting, but on the 5th, we got to tour Walnut Lane, which was very insightful for me. The first time I had been in there. On the 8th, we had a special city council meeting to pass the resolution supporting the transfer of ownership of the UMTRA site. And then on the 12th, I had a Trail Mix meeting. Trail Mix has got some exciting things going up on, including a Maintenance Monday coming up this next Monday on the Pipe Dream Trail, which is a very popular hiking and biking recreational infrastructure in town. And we also have the Spring Spruce Up coming up, which is our big spring volunteer event on the 12th and 13th of April. And then we got a great report from the Utah Raptor State Park, and things are moving along very well. I think anybody who's driven north of town notices a lot of activity out there. But they were really pushing to have all their campground open for Jeep Safari, and their entrance booth is almost completed. And the next really big step will coincide with the paving of the highway out there. So they're waiting for Utah to embark on that, and that will also piggyback for the paving of their campground and the rest of the roads within the park. On the 14th, I had the opportunity to go say thank you to Team Rubicon, who is an amazing group of volunteers who stand alone in their technical ability. A lot of them are sawyers, and so they're able to come in and do some amazing work cleaning up and putting up a fire mitigation effort in place in town. And they usually respond to natural disasters, but they have been coming to Moab regularly every year, sometimes more often. And it's all preventative work. And so we're really, really lucky to have them, an amazing group. The 19th, I got to meet with the mayor and Jason. And then on the 20th, I had a solid waste district meeting, and we have a vacancy on the solid waste board, but we have two wonderful candidates that we'll be deciding between. The solid waste department is about ready to send out billing on their new accounting software that is about 2 years in the making, getting it up and running. And so that's really exciting. That'll affect currently this next month, just non-city residents. But it might in the future, depending how things go, be something that does have an effect on city residents. And then also there's some exciting progress in the glass recycling conversation in terms of getting glass out of the single stream. And that's something that I'll be talking to all the other council members about soon, but it is a nice opportunity to keep glass recycling, available to city and county residents. And then on the 21st, I had a RAP TAC committee meeting where we were able to award. We had 22 applicants for the grants cycle, this grant cycle, and we were able to award funding to almost all of those. And so I really look forward to a lot of great work coming from that money. It's such a neat program. And then the same day, I was able to attend the grand completion celebration at the Hoodoo, which was, there's some very nice facilities there. So it's excellent to see. That's it for me.
Thank you. Tawny?
Yeah, on the 22nd, I attended the HASU meeting. And housing still is an issue in our community. I'm not gonna go through everything that they are working on. There are still 47 families on a wait list for a 1-bedroom, 55 families on a wait list for a 2-bedroom, and 44 families on a wait list for a 3-bedroom. At MAPS, there are 47 people on a wait list for a 1-bedroom and 20 people on a wait list for 2. And at Wingate Village, which is south of town, there are 123 families on a wait list for a 3-bedroom. So, given some of those people could be on multiple wait lists, but there's still definitely a need. And the Housing Authority is going to have a groundbreaking ceremony with Macult on the 18th. And I believe that Caitlin sent us all an email on that. And at the time that I was at this meeting, they hadn't decided on a time. The museum does not have a meeting until next month, but I wanted to let everybody know that they are having their annual membership gala on April 24th, 6 to 8:30 at the Grand Center. And last year it was very successful. And we were in St. George, so I didn't get to go, but it's the next week this year. So, and tickets for that event are $75 for general admission and $50 for members. If you'd want to join and be a museum member for an individual, it's only $40. So you would almost recoup your membership fee with that if you joined as a member and then purchased a ticket to the event. So, and I think that's all I have.
Thanks, Tawny. Luke?
I had an LHC meeting on the 13th. So due to the beginning of the season, some of the social service providers in the community are starting to see an increase in actually homeless individuals. So a lot of our nonprofits are kind of beginning to feel the squeeze from the tourists. The Free Health Clinic is looking into potentially being able to provide free COVID vaccines for anybody who's interested, but they're currently trying to figure out how to handle capacity of, or sorry, storage of vaccines. From Sea Haven, April is Sexual Assault Awareness Month, so they'll be having a lot of events going on in the near future. Four Corners Behavioral Health is opening up a receiving center in Price, which is going to be kind of a mix of like mandated institutionalization and like street living. So it's kind of a stopgap in a system that has a lot of holes. So excited to see that something like that is coming to our area. And then USU will be hosting a fair housing workshop on Zoom on the 9th of April from 6 to 7 p.m. Our MOP meeting got canceled for this quarter. And then I went to a GWISA meeting last week where they had put out a bid for a new fill station. I guess their current fill station is basically a fire hydrant in the back of their lot. So not super accurate data in terms of like how much water they're actually selling. So they've gotten one bid in and then another bid came in just before the meeting, but we haven't had a chance to review it yet. But both bids would move the system out front so that people don't need to go into the back of the yard. And it would be, I think both of them employ RFID technology. So you'd be able to have it tied directly to your account. It would allow for different like tiered rate structures for potentially out-of-towners, and it'd give a much more accurate number as to how much GWISA is selling. Last year, they billed about $35,000 from the hydrant. And then there was also an approved pay rate for all staff across the board, received unanimous support. WISA has had, as much of the community has had issues in retaining staff, and so they're just trying to be more competitive in the market. There will be a Water 301 workshop at 7 p.m. on April 5th. That'll be through Zoom. I believe there should be like a Zoom QR code on the flyer that they have out there. And as of right now, our lake and snow reports are looking really good for the year. So Ken's Lake is about where they want it to be. And then other than the draft of the worm came out. So that's kind of in review mode. It's a 107-page document, so everybody's kind of shuffling through that right now. And other than that, I just had the meeting with the mayor, but that's it.
Thanks, Luke. Jason.
All right. Busy couple weeks. On the 8th, I also met with toward Walnut Lane with everybody, which was very eye-opening and interesting. I appreciate the city staff taking us down there and walking us through that. It was very good. Kind of going through, and then we had the emergency meeting on the resolution, which was very beneficial to take back to Washington. I'm going to kind of work kind of all over the place here, and then on the 19th, I had a Grant County EMS Special Services meeting where we kind of had some really good discussions on kind of EMS in our valley and how things are going, and things are going pretty well. On the day before that, I had a meeting with Grant County EMS. It was a listening meeting with Jess Anderson and Darren Bushman. Jess Anderson is the head of Department of Public Safety, for the state, and Darren Bushman is the kind of head of EMS for the state and stuff. So we had a meeting with them where they just kind of listened to. There was San Juan County was there, and they had a commissioner there, and then so there was a lot of people at that meeting and just talking about rural EMS and kind of the struggles that we're having and that we're all having, and kind of where the state's at. And so it was a very good meeting. And then also had a meeting with Colin and the mayor, and then this week I had a meeting with Colin, David, and Barbie. And
Man, you're stuck with it now. That's what it is.
Over forever. We can all just be.
Sorry,
You can
sorry.
speak. Everyone would just talk. And I appreciate you guys taking the time to kind of go over the budget with us. That was very helpful and very appreciated. And then kind of piggybacking on what the mayor Ken said before, I would just like to say a big thank you to the Red Rock four-wheelers and Jeep Safari that's going on right now. I know there's a lot of people in town, but it very much is a huge economic boost to the business community. And I think it would be a failure on our part to not recognize them and say thank you for all that they're doing. It's awesome seeing lines at restaurants, and people walking around with bags of t-shirts and stuff. And so I would just like to tell them thank you for all they do for this and make it happen. The big thing that we did, or that I did in the last couple of weeks, is that Mayor Langanese, Commissioner Hadler, and Commissioner McGann and myself got the opportunity to go to Washington, D.C. to lobby for our little town. And it was a very critical experience, which I think, I kind of hit on that as far as the UMTRA, which was the main thing we were there for, which I think was a very big success in making sure that funds are allocated for our area to help clean up the pile and then to discuss the future of that site. Also, while we were out there, since we're there, we were able to meet with the Park Service and talk to them about the site and get their feedback and get their thoughts on it, which they were very supportive of and thought it was a great idea and had some really good ideas about how they could possibly help with some of the infrastructure and kind of be a part of that, as well as we talked to them about timed entry and how it was working, and we felt that it was a good thing to make to make permanent. And by doing that, they could also help them free up some funds to help with making it better. They couldn't do it under a temporary thing or what's the word I'm looking for, a pilot program and stuff. But then once it becomes permanent, they can do some things. We also talked to them about the Hype Marina boat ramp, which everybody's probably wondering, why are you guys talking to them about a boat ramp that's on Lake Powell? And this is something that a lot of people don't realize, but it's the end of Cataract Canyon, which is a huge stretch of very popular stretch of river. That stretch of river starts in Moab, and Cataract Canyon tourism or adds about $5 million to our local economy, and so that's a huge deal to for our local businesses, is to make sure that there is an access or a place where boats can come off, because if they can't, we will lose that revenue here on that. So I hope people will kind of understand that. And then also met with the Essential Air Service and talked to them about contracting and how those contracts work and what we can do to better those contracts so that we're not having, so we're never losing service, you know, or having a lesser service than what we had before, which is kind of what our city and town and county has been dealing with now with, you know, with the service that we've been getting and how to better it and how to make it work for our county and city. And that was a great discussion. Learned a lot from them. And they gave us some great ideas and we had some good relationships with them to work towards in the future. Also last week, I met with Senator Lee's business relations representative, who was here in town for spring break with his family. And we were able to discuss, again, some of our local issues and asked that, you know, for his help and their support. And that was with Commissioner Winfield was there, as well as some local businesses, you know, met with him and kind of had a roundtable discussion about kind of our issues and what we could do and how the federal government could help us out.
Great. That's it. That's a lot.
I can keep going. Come on. That's it.
Thanks,
That's it.
Jason. Yeah, just to piggyback on Jason's and our trip to DC, just a couple things. In our meeting with the National Park Service, they did say that the final EIS for the Arches Timed Empty should come out by the end of the year. So it sounds like that's moving forward to permanent status soon. They also, we asked them to write a letter. One of the things that Congressman Curtis is asking is that the National Park Service express in a written statement that they're not interested in that land. They said they'd be willing to do that. So we're going to meet with Lena Pace, the new superintendent here at the Southeast Utah group, and see if we can get that letter. You know, I can't imagine that the Park Service would want 483 acres of contaminated land to be part of the Park Service system, but I'm certain that they don't. But you know, just for Congress's needs, we'll try to get that letter. We also with the Essential Air Service, what was interesting, one was we can have 5-year contracts, which is something that you were interested in. It's just challenging because a lot of airlines don't want to do a 5-year contract. The other thing that I thought was very interesting is if the county wanted to have another air service here, they could. They would have to subsidize it. If they wanted to put up $500,000 or whatever, they could negotiate their own contract with another airline service to go to Salt Lake or Denver. So, you know, but we can only have one Essential Air Service contract because that's subsidy. But if we wanted to have another one, we could. It's just the county and or the city and or both would have to help provide an incentive to get them here. And then lastly, we also met with the Nuclear Regular Commission, the NRC. They will be overseeing the closure of Anthracite. So it's important for us to kind of develop that relationship, because from here on out, they're going to have to sign off on a lot of the aspects of closing that site. And so I felt really good about that meeting. I felt like one of the reasons we wanted to meet with them is because anything in the federal government can take a long time. And so I thought it was important for us to have a face-to-face so that perhaps they would think about us and maybe expedite the process in a way that's, of course, effective and efficient. But, you know, they did also mention that we probably want to enlist the support of the state Department of Environmental Quality to help with some of this technical stuff that's going to be occurring that none of us in this room or on the Moab Tailing Steering Committee understands. And so we really need somebody that's going to say, hey, that cover might not be the best cover for the long term. Because what we don't want to have happen is have that site closed. You know, the DOE walks away. We have legacy management kind of overseeing, making sure the contamination is dissipating, and then something fails. And then we own the land and we have no money to deal with that. So they're kind of giving us some really good advice is make sure make sure that you get what you need for the long term of the future of this project. So I thought that was really good, and we'll continue to have those meetings with those folks. Other than that, that's all I have to say about my couple of weeks. So thanks, everybody. And I guess now we need a motion to go into closed session to discuss imminent or pending litigation.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Tawny, second by
I'll second.
Colin, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 4-0.